Hello again and welcome back to our course on Excel 2013. In this section we're going to take a very quick look at using shapes and pictures in Excel 2013. It may not be something that immediately leaps to mind for you to think that you're going to want to put illustrations into a workbook, but in fact it can be useful for many different reasons to be able to add shapes, pictures, graphics and so on. And the facilities in Excel 2013 for doing this are very good. So what I'm going to do in this section, because we have limited time, is to show you the basic tools and techniques quite quickly, and I'm going to start just by using a new empty workbook. So first of all, on the Insert tab there is an Illustrations button here, and if you look underneath that there's a little drop down arrow, Illustrations, and we have 5 options. We have Pictures, Online Pictures, Shapes, Smart Art and Screenshot. Let's start with Pictures. If I click on Pictures and look at the screen tip, from File, insert pictures from your computer or from other computers that you're connected to. Now if I click on that, what I will get is the facility to browse to pictures on this device or on my network or my home group or however I'm set up, and then it's a straightforward case of looking through what's available, maybe deciding I'd like to include that particular image. Click on Insert, and that image is now in my workbook. Once it's in the workbook, I get a Format tab within Picture Tools, and I can do quite a bit of processing on this image in situ within my worksheet workbook. So for instance, if I click on the picture, I can see on the right in size that there's a pair of boxes that tell me how big it is. I could change the size, for example. So if I click on the little Size and Properties dialog launcher there, Format Picture, I have options here. I'll lock the aspect ratio and I'll make it smaller. I'm going to make it there we are, 20% of what it originally was. And having resized the picture like that, still with it selected, I then can do things like put a picture border on, picture effects and layout. Picture Styles gallery here will let me choose ways of presenting the picture, perhaps with a frame and so on. So you have a pretty good set of formatting tools for pictures that you might choose to insert into your workbooks. So that's one of the options for shapes and pictures within a workbook. Now let's look at one of the other options, Insert, Illustrations. Let's look at Online Pictures. Now with Online Pictures you have a choice. There is access to the Office.com clip art selection, and as it says there are royalty-free photos and illustrations. I should point out there are licensing conditions with these, and that you need to have Microsoft software, a valid Microsoft software license to use them, and of course to be absolutely accurate about the copyright issues and so on you need to read the full license agreement. And then we have Bing Image Search, where you can search the web for images that might satisfy a particular requirement you have. And if you've got your own SkyDrive set up, and I have got my own SkyDrive set up, I'm going to show you that in a couple of sections time, then you can look for images in your own SkyDrive. So for instance, let's suppose I wanted to look for something by way of clip art. Let's suppose I want to look for something related to a bath in clip art. I can type in bath, hit the enter key, it does a search and it comes up with a load of clip art related to bath time. If I choose one of those images, let's say that one, click on Insert, then that is now in my workbook, and note I've got the same Picture Tools Format tab. I can go in, I can resize it, I can frame it, color corrections, artistic effects and so on. So I can process that in the same way that I could my own picture. For the next option we're going to do Insert Shapes. Now when you do Insert Shapes, I'm afraid that the list, the gallery of shapes here runs off the bottom of the screen. When you do Insert Shapes, you have shapes in a number of categories. The first category we have recently used shapes. Then we have them by categories such as lines, rectangles, basic shapes, block arrows, equation shapes, etc. Let's suppose I take a basic shape. Let's take that particular shape there, a trapezoid. Once I've selected it, the cursor changes its shape to be the crosshair cursor, and then I can draw this trapezoid. And it will be drawn in the default color, and I can format it. Now, in the case of drawing a shape, and note that this shape is selected, it has sizing handles on an outline around it. Then we have an additional tab on the ribbon, a format tab, but this is a drawing tools format tab. So this has different tools to the one we saw for pictures. This has tools such as shape styles, word art styles, and different fill, outline and effect colors that we can apply to the shape. I'll show you one or two of those in a moment. We also have size controls over here, and we can also put multiple shapes on the same picture. So having inserted that one, I could do insert illustration, insert another shape. Let's say this time I choose that basic shape there, the pie. I could draw the pie on there, and I could build up a composite picture. And note that as I click between those shapes, I can determine which of them is the currently selected shape. You can actually group shapes together. You can effectively sort of glue them together so that they become single entities, or like single entities anyway. And in that way you can make much more complex shapes by sort of gluing things together. But let's look at one or two of the basic things that we can do now. First of all with the mouse, and then we'll do a couple of things using touch. Let's do a bit of colouring in. We've got the trapezoid selected at the moment. If I click the shape fill button, I can choose another colour, one of the theme colours or one of the standard colours, or I can even go in and choose a gradient such as that one, or I could go in and choose a texture such as that one. So in terms of how you can make these shapes appear, there's a lot of flexibility in Excel 2013. If we take the other shape here, that one, we also have a shape styles gallery, and if you click on the drop down here, there's a whole gallery of possible shape styles. Notice these shape styles have letters in them with fonts and font colors, and that's because these can generally accommodate text as well. So let's go for that color scheme there. Let's click within that and let's type some text. Once the shape has got the text, I can select the text, and I could, if I wanted to, say go to the home tab there and change the text to say a much bigger size. So again, a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do. Now of course, virtually all of these things that you can do with the keyboard and mouse with shapes, you can do with touch as well. Let's stick with these two. If I tap, say, the back shape to select it, I can just slide it by just swiping with my finger, just drop it wherever I like. Similarly, if I click on the other one, I can move that around. Note that the text moves with it because the text is part of the shape. And there is a little rotation handle above the shape that's selected at the moment, and I could do this obviously with the mouse as well, but I can rotate with my finger, and note how the rotation works. If I tap on the rotation handle, select it, then I can rotate the whole shape. That's just being done with my finger. Let's put it back somewhere like where it was. But then if I tap the circle below the rotation handle, the one just at the top of the shape itself, I get a different effect altogether with my finger on that, in that now as I rotate that, I change the sort of center angle for this shape. So I can make the slice out of the pie, which is what it looks like, a smaller or a larger angle. So I've effectively got sort of 2 points there at which I can cause some sort of rotational transformation on the shape. So now let's take a look at option 4, which is Smart Art. Now, Smart Art is really a very powerful facility, but basically you're talking here about groups of shapes which together either tell a story or represent a pattern or a workflow or something like that. So let's take a particular example. Let's suppose I want to use this piece of Smart Art here. Click on OK. And what I actually get is a group of images, look like three gas pumps, petrol station pumps in a way, but you might use these as a representation for some sort of process or some information, so a database store or something like that. And what you can do with the tools associated with Smart Art is to create a very good graphical explanation or representation of the information that you're trying to present in your workbook. So, for instance, here I've got these three pumps here. Supposing I wanted to represent a kind of technical argument here, so I might say background for the first piece of text, and then I might say overview for the second. Now watch as I type, in that one of the things about Smart Art is that as you type in content or as you make various other changes to the content in Smart Art, it resizes itself to cater for the changes that you're making. So I'm going to type some longer text here. Just watch what happens. Now sometimes it resizes, sometimes it just turns a line. It'll have a limit on how small or large the text can be. Put in here third piece of text. When I've finished typing in the text, click on close, and in each of these I can add a picture. So if I wanted to put a picture in the top one, again I could choose a file, put some clip art in there, do a search, get something from SkyDrive, etc. So in this way I can use this background Smart Art with text, pictures of my choosing. Obviously I've got styles that I can choose from. I can look at formatting in terms of different shape fill, so I can go to the shape fill there, change that particular one to a different color. So I have a very full set of design and formatting tools to go with all of this Smart Art, and it is quite surprising how often these kind of graphics can really help the presentation of a workbook in Excel 2013. So there's just one more option to show you here, which is the last one, screenshot. This facility is common across Office 2013. All of the major components have this facility whereby you can quickly add a snapshot of any window that's open on your desktop to your document. This is quite useful when you're trying to put information, say, from another application to either explain what's going on in your workbook, or maybe you're using your workbook itself to explain this other effect or this other event. Now in my case I haven't really got anything significant otherwise open while I'm recording at this, other than the software that's recording me and what I'm doing on the screen. But if I just click on screenshot here, it'll just basically show you how it works. Click on screen clipping. Now the screens that are available, in this case it will only be my background, are sort of ghosted over. You'll see them sort of greyed out. If you use the crosshair cursor to cut a bit of it out like that, when you release the cursor, what happens is whatever you had in the rectangle you marked out with the cursor is inserted into the current worksheet. Now of course if I'd had, say, a program open or a database open, I could have gone to that and taken part of a screenshot from there and inserted that into my worksheet. So that was a quick tour of shapes and pictures in Excel 2013. I hope there's plenty there for you to experiment with. Although we didn't go into this in detail, I believe I covered enough information there for you to do a little exercise on this. I've reopened example 16. This is the latest version of the invoice for the plumbing company. What I'd like you to do is to put a logo, I think something like a rubber duck or something like that. Might look quite nice somewhere on this invoice. So I've given you a couple of clues. My answer is example 17. I'll see you in the next section.